Dalkaen here, and this is my review of Mega Man 03 for the Game Boy Advance. Playing these games in succession has left me with a not inconsiderable amount of Mega Man fatigue, but of course it helps that they generally only take me a day or two to complete. Honestly, Mega Man 9 was the hardest I've played recently, but that may just be because it was the first game of that type I played in a very long time. I get better and better at the genre the more games I play, and as a result, Mega Man 03 is the easiest of the series so far. But I think there are more factors to consider than my overall skill level. Right off the bat with the introductory stage, I was surprised to learn that I'd achieved an A rank on my first try. As usual with rank in this series, maintaining an A or S rank allows Zero to acquire EX skills from defeated bosses, skills that mimic an effect the boss itself possesses. There are a whopping 12 of them this time around, although many are repeats of skills from Mega Man 02. Many of the effects granted by forms from that game are replicated by EX skills, or in some cases by new Cyber Elves. Forms themselves do not return, although the elemental chips acquired from certain bosses do affect Zero's coloring. The actual replacement for forms in Mega Man 03 lay in chips, pieces that slot into Zero's head, feet, or body. The elemental chips from previous games in the series are now classified as body chips, whereas head chips and feet chips modify Zero's abilities in other ways. These enhancements are found in hidden secret discs, of which 10 are scattered around every single stage in the game. Cyber Elves are now found in these secret discs as well, but because there are so many of them, many secret discs contain energy crystals or background information instead. I felt this added a fun collecting element to the game and made a point of revisiting each stage after completion to collect any remaining secret discs. Cyber Elves do of course return, and I feel they've been implemented in the best way so far in Mega Man 03, even if it does have a pretty dramatic effect on the difficulty. In my previous videos, I lamented the fact that the enhancements offered by Cyber Elves, such as health upgrades, run speed enhancements, climbing enhancements, etc., had a direct and negative influence on your rank. This is still true in Mega Man 03, but they've been reclassified into two different categories this time around. Fusion Elves function identically to how they did in previous games and die upon use, but Satellite Elves can be equipped, up to 2 at a time, and be used as many times as you want. They also have no effect on rank whatsoever. Say for instance you want a boost of health. You could equip Martina the Cyber Elf and have double health for as long as that elf is equipped. Similarly, elves with more esoteric effects like firing bullets or causing Zero's Buster to charge faster are more worth using because they can be equipped when needed instead of consumed when the player may not be sure it's actually required. Of course, the Satellite Elf system makes it a lot easier to complete certain stages and to consistently achieve A ranks. In Mega Man 02, I was forced to use all 4 Cyber Elves that temporarily boost your rank to A to acquire 7 out of 8 EX skills. In 3, I used only 1 out of a possible 5 and otherwise had no real issue maintaining my A rank and acquiring all 12 EX skills. Unfortunately, many of the EX skills are not tremendously useful, but I did find myself using Blast Shot and V-Shot quite often. And as I said before, I do crave options. Simply being gifted with the opportunity to experiment with different abilities is something I enjoy in games like these, even if the abilities are not always the most practical. Although many of the EX skills are not super useful, the head and feet chips are actually quite useful and add a lot of different dimensions to the gameplay. After acquiring the auto-charge head chip, I kept it equipped for the rest of the game. Having Zero's primary and secondary weapons charged on their own is surprisingly helpful. Similarly, the double jump foot chip is invaluable not only in combat situations, but for platforming as well. It's required in order to get several secret discs, along with careful usage of the recoil rod, latest in the Zero series line of rod weapons. I'll have to give it credit and say I like it better than the chain rod from Mega Man 02, but it can still be insanely frustrating to use, particularly when it comes to bounding off enemies. There's at least one secret disc that requires you to dash pogo hop off an enemy and then double jump onto a ladder. That's just not cool, man. Mega Man 03 is my favorite of the series so far. It has the best implementation of the Cyber Elf system, the most options for enhancements, upgrades, and abilities, and the least frustrating level of difficulty in platforming segments. The search goes on for a tightly controlled platforming tool. The chain rod and recoil rod both are inconsistent at best, but it mostly shines when it comes to level design, even if it didn't leave the best of first impressions. Childre and Arabita's stage takes place almost entirely underwater and requires you to keep ahead of the boss in an underwater mech and take out switches before you can reach them, all while he makes childish giggling noises. I'm also not a big fan of Volsteel Bilio's stage, which requires you to navigate through segments of electrified water. Seems like there's a recurring theme here. On the other hand, exploring stages to collect secret discs is fun. Chip enhancements add gameplay like dashing through obstacles, hopping on water, restoring health when standing still, etc. And the core gameplay is, as usual, really solid. We'll have to see if Mega Man 04 usurps its throne.